She could have said nothing. She was 8 years old, wearing a dress that had been ironed carefully for an occasion it was never designed for. She was surrounded by people who wore more in jewelry than most families earned in a year. Nobody would have noticed if she had simply stacked her books, kept her head down, and gone home. But she didn't. Instead, she tugged on the sleeve of Marcus Ellington's jacket and changed the course of an entire evening. The Ellington Foundation gala glittered around them in full force that night. Downtown Atlanta glowed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Grand Meridian Hotel ballroom. Crystal chandeliers scattered light in 1,000 directions. A string quartet played something soft and European near the stage. 200 guests moved through the room in tailored suits and evening gowns, speaking the careful language of people who had something to protect. Marcus stood at the center of it all. At 48, he had built Ellington Technologies from a single rented office in Georgia into one of America's most admired tech companies. It was success the way people who earned it always do, quietly, without performance. His presence drew attention effortlessly. His smile held exactly the right amount of warmth. Almost no one noticed the small girl near the edge of the crowd. Ava Johnson was not a gala guest. She was a volunteer. She had spent most of the evening helping organize donated books for the Foundation's literacy program, carefully arranging titles by age and reading level with the kind of focused attention most adults reserve for things that actually matter to them. Her blue dress had been pressed perfectly. Her dark braids were decorated with tiny silver beads that caught the light every time she moved. Around her wrist, a faded friendship bracelet hung loosely, worn enough at the edges to suggest it carried real history. She looked completely ordinary. She was anything but. Marcus had just finished thanking a donor from Houston when he felt it. A small, insistent tug at the sleeve of his jacket. He looked down. Ava stared up at him with unusually serious eyes. Not the wide, excited eyes of a child attending a fancy event for the first time. Something older than that. Something careful. Mr. Ellington, she said softly. Ismail. Having a good time tonight? She hesitated. The music seemed to drift further away. The ballroom chatter blurred into background noise. Then she stepped slightly closer. Don't trust your bodyguard. Marcus blinked. He thought, for 1 second, he had misheard her. What? She swallowed. Her voice stayed low. Please, she whispered again. Don't trust him. Before Marcus could ask a single question, a wave of noise erupted near the ballroom entrance. Photographers surged forward. Guests shifted backward. Chairs scraped against marble. A surprise celebrity arrival had compressed half the crowd toward the doorway. In the same moment, Derek Cole moved. Calm. Mature. Exactly practiced. Marcus's head of security stepped smoothly between him and the pressing crowd, one hand extended, guiding Marcus toward a quieter section of the ballroom without breaking stride. The movement was so natural that several nearby guests nodded approvingly. One donor even said, loud enough to be overheard, "That's exactly why you hire the best." Marcus watched Derek carefully. The bodyguard looked exactly as he always did. Focused. Steady. Dependable. In nearly 7 years, Derek Cole had protected him through public appearances, major acquisitions, international travel, and more charity events than Marcus could count. Nothing about the man looked threatening. Yet when Marcus turned back toward Ava, he noticed something that stopped him cold. She wasn't frightened. She wasn't confused. She wasn't watching Marcus at all. She was watching Derek. With a sadness that seemed far, far too old for an 8-year-old child. The orchestra resumed. Guests settled. The moment passed as if it had never happened. But Marcus couldn't shake it. Across the ballroom, Derek exchanged a brief glance with someone Marcus couldn't identify before disappearing momentarily into the crowd. And Ava stood beneath the chandelier light, clutching her bracelet tight, like someone watching the beginning of something nobody else could see yet. The reception flowed on around him, but Marcus Ellington was no longer quite in it. Donors discussed scholarship programs. Executives exchanged cards. Servers moved between tables carrying trays of sparkling water. The gala was performing exactly as designed. Marcus's attention kept drifting back to the girl near the literacy display. Ava had returned to arranging books as if nothing had happened. She moved through the stacks carefully, separating picture books from middle-grade readers, lining up spines with quiet precision. She gave no sign of the conversation they'd just shared. Marcus crossed the ballroom toward her. "Ava," he said gently, lowering his voice. "Why did you say that?" Her hands paused on the cover of a picture book. She seemed to weigh the question. Then she glanced toward Derek. "I don't know how to explain it," she said. "Did you see him do something wrong?" She shook her head. "No, sir." "Did he say something that worried you?" She shook her head again. Marcus frowned. "Then why are you concerned?" She looked down at the friendship bracelet on her wrist, fingers moving across the worn thread slowly. "Because he looked scared." That was not the answer Marcus had expected. "Scared?" She nodded. "Everyone keeps watching you tonight. They smile when they see you. They want photographs. They want to talk to you." A pause. "But he keeps looking over his shoulder." Marcus glanced across the room. Derek was checking his earpiece, speaking quietly into a radio. Nothing seemed unusual. "He's security," Marcus replied. "That's his job." Ava hesitated. "Maybe." The orchestra shifted into a slower melody. Laughter drifted from nearby tables. The world outside their quiet conversation moved along without interruption. "When people are nervous," Ava said softly, "my grandma says they look at the thing they're afraid of before anyone else notices it." Marcus studied her face. No fear. No excitement. Only certainty. The particular certainty of someone reporting what they have actually seen, not what they have imagined. Before he could respond, footsteps approached. Polished. Eben. Mr. Ellington, Derek said with his usual professionalism. "The mayor just arrived." "Ede like a moment before the presentation begins." Marcus nodded automatically. Derek offered a polite smile toward Ava. "Enjoying the evening?" She forced a small smile. "Yes, sir." Derek nodded once and stepped away. Nothing about the exchange felt wrong. If anything, it reinforced everything Marcus had always believed about the man. He almost laughed at himself for questioning it. But as he followed Derek across the ballroom, he glanced back one final time. Ava was still standing beside the books. And she was clutching her bracelet with both hands. The presentation began. The ballroom lights dimmed. A screen lit up behind the stage with images of children holding books, reading at tables, graduating from programs the foundation had funded. Marcus stood at the podium. He delivered the remarks he had practiced. Applause rose and fell around him. Camera flashes sparkled from the back of the room. Yet even while speaking, he noticed something he hadn't noticed before. Derek was not watching the crowd. He was watching a security camera mounted above a service hallway at the far left side of the room. Once. Twice. A third time. Each glance lasted only a second. Most people in the room would never have caught it. Marcus caught it. So did Ava. He could see her from the stage, standing near the rear of the ballroom, and her eyes were tracking the same thing his were. After the speech concluded, Nina Brooks appeared beside Marcus as he stepped off the stage. His chief of operations handed him a folder with a slight tension behind her professional smile. "Great presentation," she said warmly. "The donors loved it." Marcus smiled. "Thank you. There's something odd, though." Her voice dropped. "One of tomorrow's private meetings appeared online this afternoon." Marcus felt his stomach tighten immediately. "That meeting was confidential." "I know." Nina looked genuinely confused. Only a handful of people had access. Across the ballroom, Derek glanced once more toward that service hallway. For the first time that evening, Marcus found himself wanting to see exactly what those cameras had recorded. The gala wound down as the evening stretched toward 10. Marcus moved through the lobby corridors with Nina, away from the remaining guests. How many people had access to the meeting details, he asked. Nina checked her tablet. Very few. You, me, legal counsel, and security coordination. Marcus slowed. Security coordination? She nodded. Standard. Transportation routes, arrival times, venue details. Neither spoke for a moment. Marcus found himself looking at every security camera he passed. Their small green indicator lights blinked steadily above doorways and corridor junctions. Silent witnesses. He had never thought about them quite like that before. Do we have footage from tonight? He asked. All of it. Ballroom, entrances, service areas, elevators, parking structure. Marcus nodded. Good. They returned toward the main room. Volunteers were beginning to pack away decorations. Ava was stacking books into cardboard boxes near the literacy display, the silver beads in her braids catching the chandeliers one final time. When she saw Marcus approaching, she offered a polite smile. The event was beautiful. You helped make it that way, he said. She glanced around to confirm no one was listening. Did something happen? She asked. He hesitated. Why would you ask that? She shrugged. Because you look different now. Different how? Like you're trying to solve a puzzle. Marcus looked toward the ballroom entrance. Derek stood there coordinating departures with the venue staff. Calm. Efficient. Completely professional. Maybe I am, Marcus admitted. Ava followed his gaze. Do you still think I'm wrong? He chose his words carefully. I think I don't know enough yet. She seemed satisfied with that answer. That's better than pretending, she said. Before either could speak again, Derek appeared beside them. Mr. Ellington, your vehicle is ready whenever you are. Thank you. Derek nodded. Everything's been cleared. No issues. As he spoke, his eyes drifted once toward the security camera mounted above the ballroom exit. 11. Then again. Then away. Less than a second. Nothing anyone would notice. But Eva's grip tightened on the bracelet around her wrist. There, she whispered. He did it again. Marcus looked at the camera glowing above the doorway. And for the first time all evening, he decided he needed to see exactly what it had been recording. Midnight settled across Atlanta. The penthouse was quiet. Most of the gala guests had long since returned home. But Marcus sat awake beside Nina in the company's private security operations room, surrounded by the cold blue glow of monitors. The screens displayed every angle of the hotel. Hallways. Elevators. Loading areas. Service corridors. Parking levels. The entire evening, preserved on camera. They reviewed the footage in silence, moving through the timeline with careful patience. There, Marcus said. Nina paused the video. Derek on screen. Entering the service hallway shortly after his disappearance from the ballroom. He looked back once. Then again. Then stepped through a side door toward the parking structure. They followed him through 3 different camera angles. Parking garage. A concrete support column near the middle of the structure. Derek standing and waiting. Then a man in a gray jacket approached. Brief conversation. Then the man handed Derek a thick envelope. Nina froze the frame. The silence in the operations room felt very loud. That looks bad, she admitted quietly. Marcus stared at the frozen image. 7 years of trust suddenly felt fragile. He felt disappointment settle in his chest, heavy and specific. Who is the other man? Nina typed rapidly. Facial recognition ran through records. A profile appeared. Nina blinked. That can't be right. Marcus looked at the screen. Daniel Cole. Age 37. Occupation, physical therapist. Relationship status, younger brother of Derek Cole. Marcus frowned. His brother? Nina opened additional records. Medical billing documents. Hospital registrations. Insurance claims. Treatment schedules. Their mother had spent nearly a year receiving serious medical care. The family had accumulated significant expenses. Recent records showed Derek making regular contributions. Nina looked up slowly. The envelope wasn't a payment. Then what was it? She exhaled. Hospital receipts. The room fell silent again. Marcus stared at the frozen image of the envelope changing hands. Everything looked different. Now. What had seemed like a secret transaction seconds ago was a brother helping family. Nothing more. He leaned back and rubbed his forehead. Across town, Eva was probably asleep, unaware that her warning had triggered an investigation that appeared to be dissolving. Derek wasn't accepting money. He was carrying medical paperwork. He wasn't betraying anyone. If anything, he was quietly carrying burdens no one else knew about. Nina prepared to close the file. Then a notification appeared in the corner of the screen. A security camera from an unreviewed hotel angle had just uploaded its latest footage. Neither of them had looked at it yet. They almost missed it. The timestamp belonged to a corridor rarely monitored during events. A service passage connecting the hotel's administrative wing to the main building. The camera that recorded constantly but was never checked unless something triggered a flag. Something had triggered a flag. Nina enlarged the footage. The hallway was quiet at first. Then a woman appeared. Professional clothing. Tablet in hand. She walked toward Derek from the far end of the corridor. They exchanged a brief exchange of words. She handed him a folder. He looked at it briefly, then handed it back. She seemed frustrated. He seemed firm. She left. Who is she? Marcus asked. Nina ran the profile. Outside consultant, she said. Vanessa Reed. She's been attached to several strategic planning projects here over the past 2 years. Marcus stared at the frozen frame. He recognized the name. Vanessa had always appeared competent, professional, and entirely routine. Nothing about her had ever raised a flag. But then why was she approaching his bodyguard in a service corridor before a private gala? What was in the folder? Marcus asked. We can't tell from this angle. Marcus leaned back. The evidence pointing toward Derek kept softening with every new layer. The envelope was medical receipts. The folder exchange looked like Derek refusing something. Nothing here confirmed what Eva feared. Yet something still wasn't right. The wrong thing wasn't happening in front of the camera. The wrong thing was happening somewhere the camera couldn't fully see. It just needed to find the right angle. The clock passed 1:30 in the morning. Most of the building slept. Marcus and Nina didn't. Nina was pulling employee movement logs, comparing security badge records against building access timestamps. Thousands of entries. Elevators. Office entries. Conference rooms. Look at this, she said finally. Marcus leaned forward. The workstation used in an unauthorized access attempt earlier that night had been activated through a temporary administrative override. Very few people could authorize that level of access. Fewer still had authority during a charity gala when most executives were away from headquarters. How many people can do this? Marcus asked. Less than 10, Nina said. She enlarged the authorization trail. The digital signature appeared. The override had been approved through credentials assigned to the Senior Executive Scheduling Office. The same department handling confidential travel plans and high-level meeting information. Nina opened camera footage from that department's hallway. A rarely used corridor. Executive offices. Private meeting rooms. The timestamp matched the access attempt. The hallway sat empty for several minutes. Then a figure appeared. A woman. Tablet. Confident stride. She paused briefly near an office door, then moved toward the workstation area. Enhance it, Marcus said. Nina sharpened the image. The face became clear enough. Marcus recognized her immediately. The same woman from the hotel corridor. The same consultant who had handed Derek the folder. The same person whose profile had seemed entirely harmless. Vanessa Reed. Nina stared at the screen. That is not a coincidence. Marcus shook his head. It was not. The more they looked, the more connections appeared. She had appeared near Derek. She had appeared near the unauthorized access attempt. And now she appeared connected to both. Her movements through camera angles were deliberate, patterned, careful. She knew exactly what those cameras could and could not see. Then Marcus remembered something. Ava standing beneath the chandelier. Watching Derek watch the cameras. He had assumed she was observing the man she was warning. About. But what if she had simply noticed fear? What if she had seen a bodyguard studying the cameras not to hide something himself, but because someone else had made those cameras dangerous for him? Pull his internal reports, Marcus said. Nina looked up. Derek's. All of them. Everything he's submitted in the last year. She compiled the files. They appeared in chronological order across the screen. Marcus went through them one by one. And then, there they were. 2 internal reports. Submitted months earlier. Both mentioning unusual access patterns connected to executive scheduling systems. Both citing specific behavioral observations about activity that didn't match registered employee roles. Both marked resolved before ever reaching senior review. Who closed them? Marcus asked. Nina clicked the file. The answer appeared in bold. Vanessa Reed. The person who had been flagged in the reports, had been the one responsible for reviewing them. She had buried her own investigation. Marcus felt the full weight of it settle slowly, like something falling from a great height. Derek hadn't been hiding from the cameras because he was guilty. He had been watching them because he was afraid of what she had done to cover her tracks. He had been waiting to see if the recording systems had caught what he hadn't been able to prove. He had been trying to warn Marcus for months. Call Derek, Marcus said. Nina blinked. Now. Now. Derek arrived within 20 minutes. Dark suit from the gala. Tired eyes. Alert posture. When he walked into the operations room, his eyes moved immediately across the monitors. Then they found the frozen image of Vanessa displayed on the main screen. Something shifted in his face. Relief. Marcus saw it instantly. So did Nina. Derek looked from the screen to Marcus. You know, don't you, he said quietly. Not a question. The room fell still. Computer fans hummed softly in the background. Outside the glass wall, hundreds of security cameras continued their silent, patient work. You tried to warn me, Marcus said. Derek nodded. It looked like a man finally setting down something very heavy. Several times. Nina leaned forward. Why? Didn't you come directly to us? Derek exhaled slowly. Because I had no proof. Only patterns. Only instincts. A pause. And instincts don't hold up when the person you're suspicious of has access to executive leadership. A step toward the main screen. Vanessa's image remained frozen there. At first I noticed small things, he said. She always seemed to know about schedule changes before they were officially distributed. She appeared in locations she had no reason to be. Whenever a confidential meeting changed venues at the last minute, she knew. Marcus folded his arms. You submitted reports. Twice. Derek looked directly at him. Both times, the concern closed before it reached you. Nina had already opened the communication archive. He's telling the truth, she said. Marcus came closer. The two reports appeared on the screen, exactly as they'd found them before. Submitted months apart. Filed correctly. Closed without escalation. Closed by Vanessa Reed. Marcus felt a cold clarity move through him. The person running the internal review had been the same person the review was supposed to catch. After that, Derek continued, I started paying closer attention. It pointed toward a monitor showing hotel footage. I knew she understood where the cameras were placed. He knew she worked around them deliberately. He just couldn't prove why. A pause. So I watched them instead. Hoping something she couldn't control would show up in the frame. Marcus remembered Ava's voice. He looks at that camera like he's worried about what it might see. She had read fear perfectly. She had simply read it backwards. The cybersecurity system delivered its final report as the clock approached 3 in the morning. A digital pathway appeared on Nina's screen, mapping every step taken through the company's internal network during the unauthorized access attempt. Entry points. Permission escalations. Transfer destinations. The trail ended at a secure cloud storage account. The kind used to move documents outside the company's systems. Nina opened the account owner record. The name loaded slowly. Derek closed his eyes briefly. Marcus felt his pulse quicken. After hours of questions and false turns, they were standing in front of something real. Something documented. Something that could not be explained away as coincidence or misunderstanding. The account belonged to Vanessa Reed. Not through a third party. Not through an intermediary. Directly. Exclusively. Undeniably. We found it, Nina whispered. They didn't move immediately. Marcus stood in front of the monitors and let the full picture settle around him. 8 months of information flowing out of Ellington Technologies in careful, small portions. Executive travel schedules. Private meeting locations. Confidential acquisition timelines. The kind of intelligence that could redirect investments, preempt negotiations, and reshape competitive outcomes across multiple industries. She had not stolen everything at once. That was the architecture of her patience. Small enough to avoid alarms. Frequent enough to be valuable. Deliberate enough to stay invisible. At least to everyone except a bodyguard who had been watching the cameras from the edge of a ballroom. And the little girl who had watched the bodyguard. She's preparing another transfer, Nina said. Scheduled for this morning. A new package of executive planning data. Marcus looked at the monitors. Rows of screens. Every hallway, elevator, office, and entrance in the building visible in real time. He thought about all the things those cameras had seen over the past several hours. Derek accepting medical receipts for his mother's care. Vanessa moving through a corridor she had no authorization to be in. A figure at a workstation who avoided every direct angle on purpose. The cameras had recorded all of it. Every honest thing. Every dishonest thing. We's the same patient, in different eye. Don't stop the transfer, Marcus said. Nina looked up. Sir. Let her believe we still don't know. Let her think the cameras missed it. Derek's expression hardened with the particular focus of someone who has waited a very long time for this moment. Nina began setting up the monitoring protocol. A controlled environment. Every access point covered. Every movement logged in real time. The plan was simple. Watch. Record. Let her finish what she came to do. And catch every second of it. Morning arrived the way it always did in Atlanta. Gold and slow, spreading across glass towers from the east. Employees filed into Ellington Technologies through the lobby. Security badges scanned. Elevators filled. The ordinary machinery of a business day engaged without any visible sign that something was different. Nothing was different on the surface. Everything was different underneath. Marcus and Nina stood inside the operations center, watching the wall of monitors. Derek positioned himself in the building at a calculated distance. Security personnel were stationed at every key exit, dressed in plain clothes, and remarkable. They waited. Shortly after 10 o'clock, a notification appeared on Nina's screen. The scheduled transfer request had activated. Nina immediately pulled the access log. A workstation on the 26th floor had connected to restricted executive files. SAMI method. SAMI destination account. SAMI pattern. This time, every keystroke was being recorded. Camera feeds automatically aligned beside the access log. The workstation came into view. Vanessa Reed entered the frame. Reed. Carrying her tablet. She sat, entered several commands, and opened restricted scheduling documents. The timestamps matched perfectly. Every file she accessed appeared simultaneously on the monitoring screen. No assumptions. No theory. No guesswork. Only evidence. Clean, recorded, undeniable evidence. Nina saved each recording without saying a word. Every logging. Every transfer. Every movement captured from multiple angles by the cameras Vanessa had spent months believing she could manage. Derek's voice came through the radio quietly. She's still at the workstation. Marcus nodded once. They let her finish. Then they moved. The formal investigation concluded by early afternoon. Company attorneys. Compliance officers. Cybersecurity specialists. They reviewed the evidence with the careful precision that serious matters require. The findings were unambiguous. 8 months of deliberate, systematic data theft. Executive credentials used without authorization. Internal reports suppressed by the same person they were meant to surface. A cloud storage account holding documentation that had no business leaving the building. By 2 o'clock, Vanessa Reed's access privileges were permanently revoked, and the matter entered formal legal and corporate review. The threat to Ellington Technologies had ended. Not because of a sophisticated audit trail. Not because of a new cybersecurity protocol. Because a bodyguard had been afraid enough to keep watching the cameras. And an 8-year-old girl had been observant enough to watch him. That evening, Marcus made one final stop before returning home. A small community literacy center. Warm light through low windows. The smell of paperback books and wood floors. Abba was there, exactly as he expected. Organizing a new shipment of donated titles, working through the stack with the same focused care she brought to everything. When she saw Marcus come through the door, her face lit with genuine surprise. He sat beside her. I owe you an apology, he said. She tilted her head. For what? For not listening sooner. She looked down at her bracelet, tracing the worn threads with one finger. I wasn't even sure I was right. Marcus smiled. You weren't right about what I thought. She looked confused. You never warned me about the wrong person, he said. You warned me about the right feeling. The room was quiet. Sunlight came through the windows in long gold rectangles and fell across the rows of books. Outside, the city moved through its evening without any awareness of what had happened. What feeling? She asked. Marcus looked at her. That when someone important to you looks afraid, it's worth paying attention to why. Abba thought about that for a moment. He reached into his pocket. Pressed something small and cool into her hand. She opened her fingers. A silver bookmark. Engraved. 4 words. Trust what kindness sees. Her fingers traced each letter slowly, the way she traced the threads of her bracelet when she was thinking. She smiled. Outside, the city settled into evening. Lights came on across the towers of downtown Atlanta. Traffic moved in slow, indifferent streams. The ordinary world continued exactly as it always had. Far above the streets, inside a building full of hallways and offices and quiet corners, security cameras continued their silent work. They had always been there, recording the moments no one thought to notice. A bodyguard watching a lens from across a crowded ballroom, trying to find evidence of something he couldn't prove alone. A woman who believed she understood those lenses well enough to stay invisible. And an 8-year-old girl in a blue dress and silver beads, standing at the edge of a room that wasn't built for her, paying attention, when everyone else was too busy to look. The cameras captured all of it. The fear. The deception. The truth. The moment a child decided to speak. And the moment a billionaire decided to listen. Some things only become visible when you finally stop performing certainty and start paying attention to what's real. Abba Johnson knew that before most people learn it. She knew it at 8 years old. Standing beside a stack of children's books in a dress that had been pressed carefully for an occasion it was never designed for. Knowing something. And deciding it was worth saying out loud.